Good evening, welcome back to Poetry Love Buzz. It is I, ZM Wise, and here I am with another home recording just for you. Tonight we are focusing on a very unique David Bowie box set, which is also the most recent David Bowie box set release, David Bowie Conversation Piece. Oh, are you wondering about this? Well, this is just a little shout out to my brother who made this for me. He's an incredible visual artist, makes all sorts of delights using wood and paint and the laser printer. And I just absolutely adore his art, so thank you, Justy. You mean a lot to me, bro. Love you to death. This David Bowie box set is Conversation Piece. So a quick word about this box set before we explore the contents. Since 2015, around the same time, every October, November, we've received David Bowie box sets with reissues of albums, including usually a disc of unreleased material, or previously released material, but just on that disc. And it's also included live albums, certain reissues, remixes of albums, and usually per box set there are usually two separate mixes of a certain album, or sometimes they repeat it, or sometimes they redo the entire album completely. They remix it, like Lodger and Never Let Me Down. I add new sound effects and new instruments, new vocals. It's amazing. But instead of receiving another regular Bowie albums box set, 2019 was a very special year. Decided to release David Bowie Conversation Piece. And it seemed most fitting because 1969 was the year that Space Oddity was released. Originally called David Bowie, or Man of Words, Man of Music. Was not originally called Space Oddity. But, so 2019 was the 50th anniversary since its release. And also in 2019, well before this box set even was released, a few LPs of demos were released. Very, just previously unreleased material. Even material that was not available on any bootleg whatsoever. And so, while exploring the contents, we will take a look at those tracks, and I'll be doing just a little mini breakdown of each disc, as well as showing you the book, this major book. So unlike the David Bowie box sets that came out in previous years, they looked like mini LPs in these cube boxes. This is in the form of a book, and a little heavy. Not very cumbersome, but still. So, as you can see, it's quite sizely here. And this is where I will be taking out the book. So, because it's stored in this nice box. Oh, look at that! Look at it. Hang on, let me redo this. Let's see if I can. Nope, that's not going to work. Let's see if we can turn it over. Look at that! There he is! There he is! I'm so afraid this is going to fall over. Okay, don't fall over. This box set means a great deal to me. Okay, alright. Yeah, excuse me while I turn this right side up. Alright, there we go. So, Conversation Piece. This comes with a lot of unreleased photos from 1968 to 1969. This box set spans his work from 1968 to 1969. So, here we have the first two discs. Home demos. Let's take this out, shall we? Have a little peek. Little look-see. A gander. Any other variations of that bloody word? Alright, cool. So, just talk about some of my favorite tracks, and then I'll tell you what is included and what is previously unreleased. So, again, there were 3 LPs of demos that came out last year. There was Spying Through a Keyhole, the Clairville demos, and then the Mercury demos. The Mercury demos are not on here, they're on disc 2. It consists entirely of that. So, first track is actually probably my favorite throughout this whole CD, and it's been released on many, many bootlegs. April's Tooth of Gold, a very whimsical song. And what's really cool is that this huge book goes into detail and explains pretty much all the lyrics. Well, at least some lyrical element of each song. And so there are quite a few. They're all, I suppose, mixed up, save for a few versions. Mother Grey, this track, my goodness, it brings me to tears each time. It's very emotional for me, anyway. It's beautifully sung. I think it's mostly because of the harmonies, but most of these were done in one take. I mean, Bowie was famous for his one-take songs, and did all vocals himself and overdubs. Animal Farm was, of course, a tribute to Orwell. So a few of these were not released on any of the LP of demos last year, including the Reverend Raymond Brown, in parentheses, attends the garden fetes on Tatchwick Green. Let's see, so Animal Farm, Jerusalem, Hole in the Ground with George Underwood, and yeah, so there are quite a few songs with John Hutchinson of his mime trio. Feathers used to be called Turquoise, but then a group called Turquoise came out, so they changed it to Feathers. And also included in the trio was David Bowie's first serious love, Hermione Farthingale. And so songs like An Occasional Dream and A Letter to Hermione, of course, there are pieces about his breakup. He didn't really talk about his breakup to anyone. That's the thing. Very admirable for that. And three versions of Space Oddity, and a solo demo fragment of the track. Pretty much the embryonic version of Space Oddity. Of course, Life is a Circus, tracks from Spying from a Keyhole, Love All Around, Goodbye, 3D, in parentheses, Threepenny Joe. Yeah, so those are those tracks, home demos. And just put that back. And then, let's see here. Then disc 2 are the Mercury demos. These are pretty much done with John Hutchinson, and what's great is that these 10 tracks are, they have pretty much all the preliminary dialogue that introduces each track, and these tracks mainly come from, they stem from bootlegs like the Beckenham Oddity, Lover to the Dawn. I think they even made one called Life is a Circus, but I can't remember. But hearing those tracks for the first time without the remastering was just beautiful in of itself. Watching all of these tracks just evolve over the years. An Occasional Dream and Conversation Piece, they're my two favorites on the entire EP. It's the demo version of Occasional Dream was breathtaking for me. I prefer that to the studio version. And Conversation Piece, I love Hutch's vocals. Definitely meant for a duo to sing. Definitely. And Hutch actually takes the lead vocals on a couple of these songs as well. I believe Love Song, Life is a Circus, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, terribly sorry, other fellow Bowie-philes, but not my intention. So that would be disc 2. So before we get to the other 3 discs, let's briefly take a look, see at the book. Just a quick peek. I'm not going to show you everything. You got to purchase this yourself, don't you? So skip to a random page. Oh man, this is nice. Many of you may have seen these photos of him before during the Beckenham Arts Lab, which he started this lovely group. So here, look, this one is talking about Jerusalem. It's a home demo. It includes scans of typewritten letters, some correspondence between peoples, and this is an official photo session for Bowie and Hutch, John Hutchinson. If you've seen a Love You Till Tuesday video, you'll recognize him because he, along with Hermione, is in it. Let's see if we can find a picture of Hermione. She is quite gorgeous, I will say that. There she is, with David, after he cut his hair, for the part of the Virgin Soldiers. Let's find another one. Okay, yeah. That's probably one of the most famous photos of it, and it's all three of them. Feathers. Yeah, she's quite lovely. And there's another one. It's always astounds me. Truly. David waited 5 years. It's very impressive. And it shows, there are also photos of initial interviews in certain newsprint at the time. So this is the official David Bowie LP. The story behind the making of this album is just something else, and because I'm an artsy nerd, I love the stories behind the songs. Of course, I'm more interested in the lyrical content and some of the more melodic aspects as opposed to the technical details, but the audio engineers have my full attention. I love deconstructing certain albums. That's why I love listening to outtakes, remixes, demos, and what. I love the making of a song. Just like I love rough sketches of visual art, I love rough drafts of poetry. I love to see the what I call secret souls coming to life. There he is with his glasses. And I recall a similar picture from the same photo session for this album called Rare and Well Done, but I believe it was in the interior. It wasn't. The front album cover was a picture of people and Bowie eating Thanksgiving dinner, and Bowie was holding this huge knife, smiling, carving into the Thanksgiving turkey. So, just a few photos from that, and now the 3 other discs. Conversation Pieces. This is really nice. It comes with quite a few unreleased versions. So, let me see. So, In the Heat of the Morning, Decca mono version, London by Tata, Decca alternative version. And then the next 5 tracks are from the BBC Top Gear radio session with the Tony Visconti Orchestra, recorded in May of 1968. And London by Tata and Karma Man, those are my 2 favorite tracks. I can't remember if these 2 were the specific tracks that were on the album called Bowie at the Beeb, but if they are, brilliant, because I love them. And, of course, When I'm 5 is on there. And then there's an alternative take, the Morgan Studios version of Space Oddity. And there's also Chingaling, which appears again. There's the UK single edit of Space Oddity, the single B-side, a mono mix of Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, a couple others like the actual the song, the finished song Conversation Piece, the mono mix of Janine, and then 3 more. The Dave Lee Travis Show radio session from the BBC in October of 1969, Let Me Sleep Beside You, Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed, Janine. So, Conversation Pieces, some extra tracks. And then discs 4 and 5 are dedicated to the final versions of Space Oddity. And these are the original 1969 stereo mixes. The David Bowie, aka Space Oddity album. There's a difference between this one and the 2019 mix. In this one, the song Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed includes the improv track Don't Sit Down, which is, if my memory serves me, 42 seconds of, it's sort of a fade in, and then 3 or 4 times David Bowie says, yeah, baby, yeah, and then he starts saying, don't sit down, don't sit down. It's a very lighthearted track, and then he starts laughing at the end of it. It's hilarious. Yeah, so this album, I love Space Oddity. I love the title track. I love Don't Sit Down. I do like the song Janine, but I probably prefer the BBC version a little bit more. I like God Knows I'm Good, and Memory of a Free Festival is probably... Sorry if this sounds sacrilegious, fellow David Bowie fans, but I like Memory of a Free Festival just a bit more than every single one of them, including the title track. Just love how it closes, because it's only a few people chanting, "The sun machine is coming down and we're gonna have a party, and it makes it sound like an entire crowd is in the studio. I love just the constant echo, the constant amplification. And the extras, this album, the extras are Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, the single B-side stereo mix, the early mixes of the following: Letter to Hermione, Janine, and Occasional Dream, and then the full-length version of Ragazza Solo, Ragazza Sola, which the Italian artist Mogul translated the lyrics from English to Italian, and it actually means lonely boy, lonely girl. Lonely girl, lonely boy, I believe. And it's one of the two. God, I feel bad for... How could I forget that? It's one of them. Let's go with that. Lonely boy, lonely girl. Yeah. And, yeah, so those are the extras from the 1969 stereo mixes. And then the remastering job that people have been waiting for 50 years. Let's see here. It is the 2019 mixes. Disc 5. The final disc. The Space Oddity album. And then the extras are Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, the single version, and then Ragazza Solo, Ragazza Sola. There's no parentheses. This is full-length version. That's just the track. That's just how it is. Yeah, so quite the set. I waited to purchase it recently. Not just recently, but not too long ago. As much as I love David Bowie, as much as I love purchasing the hottest new thing, I can wait, because I like to save a little bit of money. And sometimes, if you noticed, if you purchase an item right away, sometimes there's something wrong with it. Like one of Bob Dylan's box sets, they forgot to include some extra pages in the booklet, and people were so distraught, probably more distraught than they should have been. But they went ahead and remedied the situation, so there's nothing wrong with waiting just a little more time after something is released. So anyway, David Bowie, conversation piece. Get yours today. Poetry lives. Long live the arts. Long live David Bowie.